Joining me now, one of those Judiciary Committee members, Democratic Congressman from Washington, Pramila Jayapal. Congresswoman, telegenic but not telepathic. What's the message your colleagues are trying to send here?
Well, that's exactly right, Alicia. I was there when Jack Smith testified. He was incredibly direct, truthful. He answered every question. The Republicans had a chance to ask them what they wanted to ask, and he answered every question they asked. Now they're trying to turn it into another investigation, which, frankly, we all knew they were going to try to do, because this is what they do, Alicia. They weaponize the Department of Justice against the people whose messages they don't want to hear. And that's what we're seeing once again from Chairman Jordan.
Talk to me about what this says about the DOJ under Todd Blanche's leadership, that there is what would appear to be a willingness to coordinate with the president's allies.
Todd Blanche slipped up the other day in the Senate. He admitted that he is still Donald Trump's personal attorney. That's what he was for all those years before, during the Jack Smith investigation. And now he is unfortunately slated to be the top person at the Department of Justice, the Attorney General. I have said he should not be confirmed for exactly these reasons. He is not representing the people of the United States. He is representing the president. Those are two different things. What we need is an Attorney General that is representing the people, and I hope the Senate does not confirm him. That is very important for the Senate to get this right.
The question I personally get over and over and over again from our viewers is, what can Congress do? And what is Congress doing? And I think this morning you helped offer an answer to that. The House voted to adopt your war powers resolution to limit the president's actions in Iran. You had 4 Republicans who joined Democrats to help pass that. Still, it still has to clear the Senate, which right now is voting on a procedural step to advance a different war powers resolution. What are your expectations?
Well, my expectation is that our Republicans develop a spine, a conscience, and stand up for their constituents and for the country. This is clearly an illegal and unconstitutional war. It is costing U.S. service members' lives, 18 already, who have lost their lives. It is costing taxpayers tens of billions of dollars at minimum. It is driving up the cost of gas and groceries, and it is creating chaos, havoc, and putting innocent civilian lives at risk around the region. So this war needs to end. We will keep putting forward war powers resolutions because it is important that Congress reclaim our authority. We have the sole authority to declare war. We have not done that. And the president has already turned up his nose at the last war powers resolutions that passed the House and the Senate. We will, of course, pursue other avenues, including legal avenues, to enforce these war powers resolutions. But the Republicans, and, I'm grateful to the 4 who stood with every single Democrat to say this war needs to end. We need more of them, and we need them to hold this president accountable for what he is doing.
I do think the movement among Republicans is what is new here, because Democrats have been making the argument on the war powers resolution since this war began. I think part of what you're watching change is actually movement within Trump's own base, his own supporters. Back in May, half of the MAGA base thought continuing the war was worth the economic cost. Now, a new Politico poll finds just over a third do. So that, for those who are not good at math, as I am not, that's a 13-point drop. Your sense, if your Republican colleagues beyond those 4 are feeling that pressure?
They absolutely are, Alicia. And I know that, I brought those same statistics up on the floor when I was debating my war powers resolution yesterday, because I think it is important for these Republicans to contend with the fact that they are enabling an incredibly unpopular war, even amongst Donald Trump voters. So in my conversations with Republicans who did vote with us today, I heard that there was a lot of hand-wringing on the other side. And I would urge you to look not only at the votes from the people who did vote with us, the 4 Republicans who did vote with us, but note that there were a number of Republicans who just didn't show up for the vote. And I think it's because they didn't want to vote no, but they also couldn't bear the thought of standing up to this president and voting yes. So they didn't want to go home to their constituents and say they voted against it, so they just didn't show up for the vote. That, in my mind, is it's not a courageous act. And what we need is people in Congress who are courageous, who will stand up to this president and say what he's doing is illegal and it has to stop. So every time we introduce these war powers resolutions, and there will be more even in September when we come back, we are forcing Republicans to be accountable to their own constituents and to the Constitution.
I'm going to ask our producers to put together a full screen of all of those members who showed up but then refused to take the vote. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, thank you so much for joining us.